Well, check out these things. A couple of big old Kenwood speakers. Because it says Kenwood down there. I can't even get them in. Well, I can get them in my workroom, but I can't get them on my workbench. Model LS-P9000D. Peak input power 400 watts, which is probably more like 150 RMS. Looks like they come apart in two pieces. So let's try to do this one-handed. So let's pop off the grill. Well, that's part of the grill. What about down here? Try not to break the vintage tabs. Now, I did try to look these up online, and I found on Hi-Fi Engine they had a LS-P9000D that said it was manufactured in 1985. I would imagine this is the big brother to that one. So, looks like we got a big old woofer down there. Foam actually seems to be okay. And then that foam seems to be in excellent condition as well. What is that? Super woofer, regular woofer, mid-range, and then 4 little tweeties here, and then a super duper tweety there. So looks like you can adjust the mid-range and the high range, which I would imagine is these guys up here. Now let's take a look at the other one. Oh, that one came off quite nicely. Same thing, they're not mirror images of each other, which I thought they might actually be. But you can see how tall these are. This is a standard height doorknob right there. I'm not sure what it is, 36 inches or something. Let's take a look. Wow, the foam actually seems really good. I wonder if these were refoamed at some point. And of course, can't check those, but the same. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drag out a vintage Kenwood receiver. It's not digital. It might not work with these things because it does show it's for digital audio. So I'll drag out a vintage Kenwood from like 1977 receiver that I have. We'll hook it up to these things and see what kind of sounds it makes. The customer is saying that they lack bass. So maybe we got a blown fuse or an open crossover, something down there. Well, one moment. Well, this might be a double taboo. I've got a digital MP3 player connected into the analog Kenwood KR4070 receiver connected into the Kenwood digital speakers. So let's power this thing on. Speaker A is what I have it connected to. I hear some sound. Well, that's with the loudness on. Okay, well, I've got nothing, something. And it sounds like all 4 of these guys are working, as well as that one. Let's move the balance. So we'll go over here to the left channel. No bass, no low, mid-range, high bass, I don't know. That one sounds like it is working. And maybe these two are not, but these two definitely sound like they are. And I do hear sound coming out of the super duper tweeter right there. Well, you know what I'm going to do? These things are so huge, I'm going to lay these things down on their backs, and or at least one of them, and pull a speaker out of it. You know what? Before that, hold on one second. Let me show you a trick. Okay, so I've got my ohm meter out here. It's a Fluke 117. I'm just going to put it in the ohm range, and then without stabbing myself, or without trying to stab myself, I'm just going to put those in the speaker terminals, and I should see resistance of the woofer or woofers, depending on how the crossover is set up. Now, I can't find, like I said, a schematic on the 9000D speakers, but I did find one on the 5000D. Let me show you that one moment. Okay, so here's the schematic. Now, keep in mind this is for the LS-P9000D. So if you look at the negative input, it's common to speaker number 4 And it's the positive on speaker number 3, sorry. So it's the positive on speaker number 3. Let's see, it does go through a capacitor and another capacitor up to these speakers up here. So we know for sure it does connect with speaker 4 and speaker 3. So the positive, unless the circuit breaker is open, which was this little guy right there, all it does is go through a 2K resistor, a rectifier diode to block the reverse from the LED, and it lights an LED. But then it goes through just a 2.1 microhenry inductor to the positive of speaker 4, and then it does get capacitively coupled. So I couldn't check this with the ohm meter, but I can check this speaker with the ohm meter because it is not capacitively coupled. It's coupled through an inductor. It does have a capacitor across the speaker to limit high frequencies going into it. But as far as DC resistance goes, I should be able to measure this with the ohm meter right there, especially for the woofer. Well, I'm going to lay this thing down and put you on a tripod and take the big speaker out and see what it has to say. One moment. Okay, so I'm thinking this is just probably a trim ring that goes around the outside of this speaker. I'll go ahead and just try to pop it off. It's only held on with 4 screws. Maybe not. Well, let's pop the speaker out. Huh. It appears to be in there quite well. One moment. Well, I decided I'm going to go ahead and take out the other speaker in hopes of being able to reach up behind it and push it out. Well, that seemed to work pretty efficiently. There's the problem. Ain't got no gas in it. It's just a passive. There's the part number. T190030-00. Looks like it could have been a speaker at one point. Had they put a voice coil, a spider, and a magnet, maybe some terminals right there. Well, anyhow, learn something new every day. One moment. All right, woofer or passive is nice and installed. I just want to take a look around inside this thing. There's the terminals. There's some wires running on up to the tweeters up there. And then there's the crossover. Sorry, I had the phone at a weird angle. There is the crossover. I wonder if it's the same as the one in the schematic. Seems to be driving the same number of speakers. So basically 1, 2, this would be 3, and 4. Can't really see the mid-range. It's in its own little cavity in there. Well, let me get the ohm meter set up, and we'll ohm out that woofer that came out. All right, so I'll put that back in ohms. And it's open. And that's not good. The cone is just hanging. But the surround looks good. But the surround is not good. That's the problem. It's all the way around. I'm going to guess what happened without that surround. We're going to get a CAT scan here. The voice coil rubbed out on the magnet. Huh. Well, I'm going to have to try to find a replacement speaker for this. There's the original part number, T10-0239-00. Yeah, fat chance finding one of those. I'll run it through the eBay machine and the Jungle website and see what they have to say. And I'll be right back. Well, let me tell you something. Trying to find the replacement Kenwood woofers is next to impossible. I did find about 1 million kits that I could re-foam or re-edge the tweeters or the speakers. Not going to do any good with open voice coils. But anyhow, I did measure the diameter on this. It's about 239 millimeters. I did happen to find a couple of, well, one, but more are available. Goldwood Sound GW10PC-8 8-ohm heavy-duty 400-watt 10-inch woofer, which means it's probably good for 150 to 200 watts RMS. Anyhow, it looks okay. It's got pretty good ratings, 4.3 out of 5 stars with 118 reviews on the Jungle website there. So I'm going to go ahead and contact the customer and see if he wants to address this issue. I think these will fit pretty well. It's going to be a couple of millimeters clearance on each side to get them in there, or they'll have too much clearance. I may have to run the screws in at a slight angle instead of straight up and down, depending on how much meat I have left on this. One thing I wanted to do is, I think it was on this one, I thought those two lower tweeters were not working. So I definitely want to pull those out and take a look at them and see what they might have to say. One moment. Well, I was right. There's no sound coming out of these tweeters whatsoever. So let's go ahead and pop it open and do an ohm check and see how they're connected. Maybe we got a crossover issue at the same time. So, oh, okay. I'll have to dig them out somehow. Well, one moment. And oh look, they look like they're in series. So there's the part number if you can see it right there. T03-0162-05. Well, let me grab an ohm meter real quick. So they must be 4 ohm tweeters. I'll restart this so it doesn't die in the middle. So that guy measures 3.8 ohms. And if I can pop that one up at the same time. Oh, they must only go one way. Probably the same part number, T03-0162-05. And we'll see if this one checks 4 ohms. And it does. So we may actually have a crossover issue instead of a tweeter issue. Oh, yep, they got to go in a very specific way. Well, let me bolt them back in there, and we'll try to get the crossover out of this thing. One moment. You know, I thought to myself, you know, you better disconnect one lead from the tweeter to get an accurate measurement of what it actually is. 6.9 ohms. Okay, so if I just measure the leads here, make sure you can still see that. So yeah, I get 8 ohms. So I'm going to re-pull the other tweeter back out, disconnect one lead, and check its resistance as well, because the other tweeters might be influencing them somehow. I don't know. One moment. Okay, I've got the other one out just for the fun of it. We'll measure the leads, see what this one says. 8 ohms. And then we'll just measure the terminals. And we're good about 6.7 ohms. About the same as the other one. Huh, what is going on? Well, I guess we're going to pull the crossover next. One moment. All right, I got it zoomed in there just a little bit. Hopefully the focus will stay good. I'm hoping that behind this is going to be the crossover. And I'm hoping they allowed enough leads to get this thing completely out of here. And they did. But they soldered the leads onto the speaker terminals. How wonderful. I wonder if I can sneak my ESR meter in there somehow. See what's going on. All right, let me figure this out. One moment. Well, I just don't get it. So I pulled those out, I checked them. They both checked fine. I rehooked it back up, and they're working perfectly now. I just don't get it. Just in case anyone's interested, there is the mid-range T060136-05. I wanted to pull it out and take a look at the surround on it, and it appears to be a impregnated paper of some type, and I just wanted to make sure that it did move in and out, and it does just fine. So I let that dangle for 1 second, and like I said, going to contact the customer, see if he wants to go ahead and replace those guys with a couple of Goldwood Sound replacement 10-inch woofers. And then we will see if there's going to be a part 2. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Kenwood LS-P9000D, digital for digital audio. Surprised it doesn't say only. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Well, I was able to find about 500,000 refoaming kits for these, or re-edging kits for these speakers. The Kenwood was the original ones, at least. But I did happen upon this one, a Goldwood Sound. It's a 10-inch, 400 watt, which means it's probably good for about 200 watts RMS. Maybe a slight less. It's got a couple binding posts on it there. 8 ohm for $79.99. I looked around at some different ones. This one's got pretty good reviews. 4.3 with 118 reviews. So I think I'm going to contact the customer and see if he wants to go ahead and throw a couple of these into it. Probably make it sound just like new, if not better than new, with newer technology and probably slightly stronger magnets. Might have a lower sound pressure level, wattage requirement. So one thing I wanted to do, I thought on this one that 2 of the tweeters sounded like they might have been out. So I'm going to rehook up the receiver and supply audio to them and just check once again if I think that those 2 tweeters are not working adequately. One moment.